Dear colleagues, before all, I would like to thank the French School of Athens for this invitation. It was a pleasure for me and an honor for me to participate. As you know, the Mevlevi order of dervishes, established at the end of the 13th century in Konya, by Sultan Veled, following the spiritual guidance of his father Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, spread out first in the this one. Now it's okay?
Yes.
Spread out first in the Turkoman Emirates of Anatolia during 14th century, following the collapse of the Seljuk Sultanate, and reached the Ottoman territories during the reign of Murad II at the first quarter of 15th century. On this map, we can see the distribution of the Mevlevihanes in the Ottoman Empire at the end of 16th century. From Hungary, Pech in the north, to Hejaz in the south, Mecca, and from Sarajevo in the west to Tabriz in the east. The oldest Mevlevihane in the Ottoman Balkans, in Rumelia, is the one in Edirne, founded in 1426 by Sultan Murad II. 11 Mevlevihanes were established in Greece. The oldest is the Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki, built in 1615. Its founder, Ekmekçizade Ahmet Pasha, who died in 1618, was one of the most eminent and richest statesmen of his time. He became the governor of Rumelia in 1613, and finally the Başdefterdar, the Minister of Finance of Sultan Ahmed I. He is also the founder of another Sufi tekke in Larissa, Yenişehir, around 1605. This tekke was at the beginning attached to the Qadiri order and transferred in 1676 to the Mevlevis. The Mevlevihane of Larissa, because of that I added this notice, Asitane, acquired the status of Asitane, characterized by a detailed architectural program where the novices could attain the grade of Dede after accomplishing different duties during 1001 days of Chile. Besides these two Sufi buildings in Greece, Ahmet Pasha founded several other charitable works in Istanbul and Edirne, registered to his deed of charge, Vakfiye. Here we can see his architectural complex in Istanbul, in Vefa, where he is buried, the Madrasa, Türbe, and Sebil, and a small cemetery, Hazire, of Ahmet Pasha, and at right you can see his tombstone. The Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki functioned up to 1923 and became by the mid-19th century, like the Mevlevihane of Galata in Istanbul, one of the touristic attractions of the city. In the guidebooks published during 19th century, the Mevlevihane of Galata in Istanbul was cited among the curiosités à ne pas manquer, curiosities not to be missed, under the label Whirling Dervishes of Pera, Les Derviches Tourneurs de Pera. It will be interesting to find a similar notice in the guidebooks of Thessaloniki from the same period, but I didn't have the opportunity to examine them. Here we can see two carte postales from that period showing the Mevlevi of the Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki, and at right, Ottoman Muslim lady and a player of ney. Among the principal sources concerning the history of the Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki, I should mention especially the article of Nathalie Kleyer, based on Ottoman archival documents from Başbakanlık archive and on former publications. Because of that, I wrote it in red. There are so many interesting things to say about the Mevlevihane, which was quite an influential institution in the socio-cultural life of the city. Because the time is limited, I would only mention the striking account of Lucy Garnett, illustrating the syncretism between the religious folklore of Greek and Muslim communities. A Mevlevi dervish who was the guardian of the Kasimiye Mosque, Bevwap, the former Basilica of Agios Dimitrios, the patron saint of the city, was at the same time the guardian of the relics of the saint, attributed to the saint, and he used to believe in their miraculous power. He was both Mevlevi and an adept of Agios Dimitrios. Now I would like to share with you a recent news concerning our subject. At the beginning of winter, at the beginning of this year, a group of items belonging to the descendants of the last sheikh of the Mevlevihane were put in auction in Istanbul. A rich lot containing the plan of the Mevlevihane, which is very interesting for me because it was not seen and published before, several photos of the building and of the people, as well as some personal objects of the sheikh. I informed the Municipal Library of Istanbul, because they have a rich collection of such items, and thus they purchased the lot. There is an ongoing bureaucratic issue between the municipality and the auction house. As you know, there was uncertainty in the first election, and now on Sunday the election will be done a second time, and the municipality cannot pay yet, and the owner of the auction house is waiting patiently the result. If not, probably he will sell it to a private collection. Still, you will be the first to see some of them. For instance, the Sheikh Selahattin Efendi's photo in his official costume, many documents concerning his belongings, I mean his immobilier in Thessaloniki, and at right there must be a carte d'identité after the annexion of Thessaloniki to Greek carte d'identité. Many seals, as you see, some of them are in wood. The one at right is the seal of the Mevlevihane, of the institution. The others are the personal seals of the sheikh. Another interesting item, one of them is the sanjak, the banner of the Mevlevihane that you can see here. At the middle stands a calligraphy with the name of Mevlana, composed in the form of a Mevlevi headdress, sikke, surrounded with the names of Allah, the Prophet, and the 4 caliphs. During the Ottoman era, almost every tekke, including the Mevlevihanes, had similar banners used during some processions, as well as during wars. And if the dervishes were to take part in the army to strengthen the spirit of the soldiers. For instance, during the First World War, a regiment of Mevlevi fighters called Mücahidin-i Mevlevi Alayı was organized by Veled Çelebi. Veled Çelebi was among the descendants of Mevlana, and he was the head of the brother of the order at that time. Here he is standing, and the regiment is visiting Konya before going to Syrian front. The Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki was built outside the city walls, extramuros, like many of its counterparts through the Ottoman world. The main reason for this was the desire for serenity by being far from the noisy crowds, as well as from the bigots, sofular, called ham ervah by the Mevlevis, which means the immature souls. So they wanted to be alone with themselves. Another reason could be the necessity of a vast terrain suitable for the rich architectural program of the Mevlevihanes in general. Here is the plan, which was not far. I mean, the Mevlevihane was close to Vardar Gate, and the one at left was published already, but the one at right, as you see, I apologize for the Istanbul Müzayede, because I contacted the owner. He told me I can send you 3 or 4 photos without this etiquette, with a higher resolution, but you know, I cannot do the same thing for the whole, because the owner actually is uncertain still. There is an interesting resemblance between the locations of the Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki, which is not far from the gate called Yeni Kapı, excuse me, Nea Porta, and the Mevlevihane of Yenikapı in Istanbul, bearing the same name of the neighboring Yenikapı in the walls of the city. Here you can see the walls of the old town, a belt of cemetery, and the Mevlevihane of Yenikapı, which is now restored and used as a research center of a new university. Among the photos in the collection, one of them gives us an idea about the surroundings of the Mevlevihane. We observe a small coffee house called Café du Mevlane, in the French, orthograph, and some neighboring modest dwellings. This was also a piece of the lot. The most important item of the collection for me is the plan of the Mevlevihane. It's a blueprint. Unfortunately, the original is missing. But I don't know if you can see the details. The functions of the spaces are written in Talik. Here is Semahane, a square space with dome. And the nucleus of the plan is this court, the inner court with the ablution fountain, Şadırvan, surrounded with dervish cells, dedegan hücreleri, and the türbe, the tomb is incorporated in the Semahane. This is very characteristic for many Sufi buildings. The tomb of the sheikhs, of the saints, are in direct connection with the ritual hall. I mean, the ceremony, the ritual is done on the spiritual presence of the sheikhs. Generally, the founder also is, if the founder is a Mevlevi sheikh. Here, Ahmet Pasha is in Istanbul, but in many other Mevlevihanes, the sheikh who is the founder is also, in a way, he's leading the ceremony from his mausoleum. There we have which is Kabristan, cemetery, and here, Selamlık Köşkü, where the sheikh was receiving important guests and where the sohbet conversation was done. This kind of plan with a central court surrounded with arcades, sharing the plan of the typical Ottoman medrese. I call them tekkes with a medrese plan. We have many examples in Istanbul and in other places. For instance, two examples are from Mimar Sinan. One of them is in the architectural complex of Atik Valide Sultan, the mother of Murad III in Üsküdar, the tekke of Atik Valide. The other is in the Külliye, in the architectural complex of Grand Vizier Sokolu Mehmet Pasha near the Hippodrome. And after 16th century, like the Mevlevihane of Thessaloniki, which is from 17th century, the plan, this kind of tekkes survived in the Ottoman architecture. We have, I chose three examples. One is in Eyüp, this one, and the founder is a Sheikhul Islam attached to Nakşibendi order, tekke of Hacı Beşir Ağa. There is an interesting, not coincidence, I think, but the founders of this kind of tekkes with the medrese plan are important bureaucrats or people serving in the court. For example, Hacı Beşir Ağa was a very influential chief eunuch in the palace during the reign of Mahmud I. And the tekke of Tahira. Tahira was also a personality in the army. And as you saw, Sokol Mehmet Pasha, Atik Valide Sultan. The Selamlık of the Mevlevihane, which was the reception and conversation space of the Sheikh, is called Köşk in the plan. It is written somewhere with small characters. Köşk means pavilion in Turkish, as you know. In fact, its plan with a central domed space, adorned in general with a pool, is encircled on four sides with E1s and reflects the most widespread design in the Ottoman domestic architecture. I chose some examples, very well-known examples. The Yalo of Amcazade Hüseyin Pasha, the end of 17th century, and the tiled pavilion of the former Beşiktaş Palace, which is no more existing because it was demolished, and the Crown Prince Pavilion of the Dolmabahce Palace was built on the same plot. And in the contemporary Turkish architecture, Sedat Hakkı Eldem designed the Taşlık Coffee House in 1948, inspired from this plan. This image, I think, is very well known. It was published in a Greek publication. The architectural elements of the Selamlık, also the outer wooden colonnade here, display the so-called Ottoman Baroque style and indicate a rebuilding or serious alteration probably at the end of the 18th century or during the first half of 19th century. We can see similar arcades in the Hayat of Çakırağı Konak in Birgi, where we have interesting wall paintings that a colleague was pointing out to you, I think, very much similar to Ambelakya. And Mevlevihane of Tokat, also from the late period of the Ottoman era. The kitchens of the Mevlevihanes had quite an important function. Besides cooking, the novices were initiated here under the supervision of Ahçı Dede, and they were also practicing the sema, the whirling ritual. Here we can see the big oven of the kitchen and the Ahçı Dede sitting in front of it. I will show you once more the plan. The kitchen is not far from the Selamlık. Here is the kitchen, and here is the Selamlık Köşkü. And I would like to show two other kitchens used, I mean, as you see, now they became museums. The kitchen of the main Mevlevihane of Konya, and the kitchen in the Mevlevihane of Afyonkarahisar. Two different views of the ablution fountain in the middle of the inner court. Its wooden dome is covered with tiles and sustained with wooden columns. It's obvious that it dates from a late restoration, like the Selamlık and the outer colonnade. At left stands the entrance of the Semahane. At the background, the wooden colonnade encircling the courtyard is visible. Before finishing, I would like to show some pictures from the Türbe that was transformed into a dormitory for refugees following the big fire of 1917. There are beds near the cenotaphs. The cemeteries of the Mevlevihanes were called Hamushan, meaning in Persian the silence, very poetic indeed. Here we can see an image of the Hamushan with a dervish standing, and I would like to finish my communication with many thanks for your patience.